Hello all my beautiful sisters from those other misters. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about makeup brushes, specifically brushes for small eyes or detail work. These can be helpful for people who have nice big eyes and lots of eye real estate to work with, particularly if they like to do detailed eye looks. Now I have small deep set hooded eyes, downturned slightly. It's like the quad of things that you don't want your eyes to be. And eye brushes for me are probably the particular type of brush that I spend the most time carefully researching when I'm in the market to buy some. So if I can't shop for them in store because it's either a brand that's not sold in store here in Australia or it's simply only sold online, I can spend a long time doing my research. Specifically, like Hakuhodo is one of those brands that comes to mind. Now, I will just say before I get into this, this is by no means even close to being an exhaustive list of all of my favorite eye brushes that I like using on my small eyes. This is just what I've pulled out. It covers the main bases of what I like when it comes to like cuts and sizes. I'm also covering a lot of brands that I really like. I have both luxury and affordable. Excuse me, what are you eating? No. Oh, this dog. Now I forgot what I was saying. I think I was saying that what I've got here covers all of the bases of what I like in eye brushes. A lot of my brushes are currently in use though, or they need to be washed. And I don't, when I do brush videos, I don't particularly like to grab brushes that I'm currently using or brushes that need to be washed, because I find every time I do that I end up with a dirty brush that like gets lost in the clean brushes, and I'm a bit of a freak about clean brushes, to be honest. So yeah, it's one of those things that just really just irks me. So I haven't got everything here that I would ultimately show you if I was going to show you all of my favorite brushes, but like I said, this does cover all of the bases. Also, I do want to make it very, very clear, while I love brushes that are great for small eyes and detail work, I have an absolute plethora of standard sized eyeshadow brushes. So your standard size blending brushes, standard size eyeshadow and pencil brushes. I've even got some that are, you know, oversized. So I think in any routine there is a place for all types of brushes. It just depends how you like to do your makeup, and I like to do my makeup different ways a lot of times, so you know, they all have a place. But today we are talking about the little brushes. So I am going to start with a bougie brand, but don't take this as like you can only get these cuts from this particular brand. These are Hakuhodo brushes. You can get these cuts anywhere, and I'm even going to show you a whole bunch of much more affordable brushes that have similar cuts to these. So you'll get an idea of like cuts, sizes and brands that I like to buy from. I would say the biggest one that I have here is the B142, and this is a fluffy blender. Now if we compare it to another Hakuhodo, is that a Hakuhodo? No, where are you? There you are. So this is like a standard sized eyeshadow blending brush from Hakuhodo, and if we take a look at the sizes there, you can see that the B142, is that correct? Yeah, 142 is just like slightly smaller. It's a bit shorter, it's a bit skinnier, but they're very close in size. So that's the sort of blending brush that I go for most times. Usually if I'm using something that's a standard size, I'm sort of blowing things out a bit higher up my brow bone, which I don't do super often, but occasionally I like to. Or if I'm just chucking on like a quick brown smoky eye with a single color, then I will definitely use something like this because it'll go over the whole eye and makes blending really quick and easy. But if I'm trying to do something like what I'm wearing today, where it's a little bit more confined, most of the fun you see when I look down or I close my eyes, and when I'm looking at you, it's not like, you know, super distracting. This is the kind of thing that I will reach for, and I will just use it in my crease and my outer corner, and I basically use one brush to do that whole blending job. Now, sometimes I like to play around with different colors in my crease. So I'll do multiple colors in my crease and on my outer corner, and that's where I'll start to bring in another brush. So I'll use this, but also I might reach for something along the lines of these three little guys here. So again, if I compare them to a full size Hakuhodo blending brush, you can see the size difference there. We start to get smaller and smaller. Now these are all just as soft and fluffy as this guy. They're just on a smaller scale basically. They're like minis. So the shapes that I have here are the J146, which is this one. I have the J5529, which is this one. The difference there is the 146, which is this one here. It's a bit longer, so it's a little bit softer at the tip. This one, because it's shorter, a little bit firmer. You've got a bit more, you know, call it grit, or like a bit more pushed when it comes to moving pigment. And then this one here, oh good, it's not numbered. Isn't that handy? But that is, again, just a little round fluffy brush. The difference between these two here, hopefully you'll be able to see it. This little guy has more of a pointed tip. And look, does it make all that much of a difference? No, nobody is going to know that you used this brush to blend your eyeshadow rather than this brush. It just depends on, you know, what you like. And I like to try lots of things, and I like lots of brushes, so I have both. But something along those lines, you don't need one that's more rounded and one that's more pointy. It's not necessary. Then some others that I have from Hakuhodo that I really like. And these guys I actually have multiples of. Some of those blending brushes I have multiples of as well. And this one I wanted to talk about simply because it is quite unique, and I actually don't know of another brand that makes this cut. I'm sure there is one, I'm just not aware of it, and it's one I use a lot, so I thought I want to include it. But these guys here are eyeshadow packing brushes, but they're little babies. So this one here is a J246HS. This is like, if I could only keep one eyeshadow packing brush in my stash, it would be this one. I would let everything else go, and this is the one that I would keep. It is skinny and long, which I really like. So when I'm doing my eyeshadow, if I want to get like right on the inner corner and just apply a tiny bit, I can have precision if I want to cut the crease in like the inner part of my eye. And if I want to quickly pack eyeshadow all over, I just use like the whole surface area of the brush and tap it over. Done. Easy. Now this one here is a J144H, and this is very similar. I would say that the size width wise is exactly the same. The difference is the height or the length of the hairs. So it does also give the brush a bit more firmness to it. It's still quite soft. Now, I wouldn't use something like this to apply eyeshadow all over my eye, obviously. It would be tedious. But if I am doing like I don't know, maybe I want to put like 2 or 3 shimmery shades on my eyelid and I want to do a gradient with them. That's where something this little really comes in handy, because you can apply a little bit here, a little bit in the center, a little bit on the outer corner, and then you can gently blend them all in together without sort of muddying the colors. So that's what I like these little guys for. Also, I do love to use these little brushes for like smudging out a wing or smudging color on my lower lash line. The last one from Hakuhodo that I want to talk about is the J6090. Now, this might not look like much. Hopefully you'll be able to see what's happening with this brush. So this is actually an angled fluffy brush that has been cut similarly to how a duo fiber brush is cut. So it has short hairs and long hairs, and it's like cut in a way that makes the end really wispy. This is fantastic for getting a really like sort of soft and dreamy look with eyeshadow. Great if you have a high pigment eyeshadow that you really want to like make the pigment not as intense. It doesn't pick up a whole lot of product, but it blends product really well. So you can take a highly pigmented eyeshadow and you can make it something really soft and subtle, rather than like if you picked up a really intensely pigmented eyeshadow with something like this, you would have to pick up the tiniest bit, and you would probably even have to like stamp it off on your hand so that you're not going in with heaps of product. Whereas with something like this, you can be a bit more flippant with it. You don't have to be so careful with how much you're picking up, because the brush doesn't pick up a lot, because the hairs at the very tip of the brush there's actually like there's not that many. It's kind of sparse. So I really love that brush. I do think it's not one that you need. Like, you don't need it. You really don't. If you are a brush junkie like myself, there's a good chance you already own it. And you'll probably be in the comments saying, Hailey, if you love that, you got to try this. But I do think, like, if you're into brushes and you like to play around with new things, this is a fun one. I really enjoy this one. Okay, I am going to do another luxury brand, but that is because I have a lot of these brushes and some of them really are fantastic, top notch for small eyes. Also, great thing about this brand, by the way, it is Rae Morris. Now Rae Morris's brushes are all cruelty free, so they're synthetic, so vegan, cruelty free. So if you do want to buy yourself a luxe brush but animal hair is just not for you, then Rae Morris might be a brand that you would like to consider looking at, because she does have a fantastic range of brushes as well. Now mine are her older brushes. What I've got here is a couple of blenders, a pencil brush, and this guy. So I'm going to talk about this guy first. This is the 11.5 Eye All Rounder. Now I'm not sure if the numbers of her brushes are still the same. Hopefully they are. This is actually a fluffy packing brush. I would consider this a hybrid between like something that you just like pack eyeshadow over the center of your lid with and a blender. If I hold it this way, you'll be able to see that it's got the shape of an eyeshadow packing brush, but the hairs are quite long, so when you start playing with the tip of the hairs, it has that vibe of a blending brush. Now I like to use this similar to how I like to use this guy if I am like just using a single matte color, or even maybe 2 matte colors. Basically I just dust it all over or pack it on if I want it a little bit like richer sort of along the lash line, and then I blend it out to create like a smoky eye. It's a one and done brush in that regard, but also it doubles in a pinch as like a normal eyeshadow packing brush or a blending brush. So it's an all-rounder. I really like that one. I think it's fantastic. If you have a big selection of brushes already, you don't really need a one and done brush unless you are trying to go minimalist, I suppose. But yeah, I like that one. Maybe not necessary for everyone, but I do enjoy it. And blending brushes. Let's do the pencil brush first. So this is the 9.1. Now I'm pretty sure Rae Morris has an even smaller pencil brush than this. I think, or maybe I'm thinking of Hakuhodo. It's in the basket to be washed. But this is a pencil brush. Hailey. Let me find a standard size one to compare it. Here we have, what are you? A Morphe E18. So this is a standard sized pencil brush. And then we have the Rae Morris for comparison. So I would consider this like a sort of a mini pencil brush. And then you can get ones that are like a half or even a third of the size of this. And I would consider them like micro pencil brushes. Now, pencil brushes this size, again, I really like this for like smoking out a wing or along the lower lash line, or even applying like a shimmer to the inner corner. When we get into the micro ones, the like really, really tiny ones, that's when you start getting into territory where you can tight line. You can literally create a smoky wing just with the pencil brush. They are quite unique. Definitely not all brands make them, although you can find them if you go hunting for them. I feel like now I need to find it and show you because it's quite a thing to see. Oh, I'll be back in an hour when I found it. I found it, guys. Yay! Okay, so it is a Hakuhodo brush that I was thinking of. Why am I not surprised? They do make some pretty cool brushes. So we've got Rae Morris and then the itty bitty Hakuhodo. It's not, I didn't put the number or the name on there. Very good, very good. And let me just show you compared to, where's that pencil brush? Oh, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Okay, there we go. There's a size comparison. It's so cute. Like I can't. It's so mini. Now, look, I wouldn't say that this is a necessary brush. I would say if you were going to get a pencil brush for small eyes, I would actually say go with this size first and see how you go. This guy, for me, it sort of improves on, you know, an already good brush and just gives me a little bit more freedom to do a few more things that I might like to do with a pencil brush. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier, applying eyeliner to the bottom waterline or tight lining with a little brush like this. It's basically the size of a tip of like an eyeliner pencil, creating a wing. Also, because my eyes are small, I find that if I'm putting any color on my lower lash line or just underneath it, I have to be really careful not to take it down too far because it starts to make me look like my face is a bit droopy. Like meh, and it's not cute. So brushes like this allow me to really like get in there and be precise with it. So I like it. I don't think it's necessary for everyone though. I would recommend more like, you know, a slightly smaller than average pencil brush. And as for the blending brushes, I have the 7.6 Detail Round Shader, which is the white one. I have the number 9 Detail Point Shader, and I will, look, I'll just point out here, I'm pretty sure these are the same brush, and one of them was from when she released her Jishaku range, which is what her brushes are called. And then another one I got after she revamped that line, but before it went vegan. And I think she just did a little bit of like a restructure with the numbers of the brushes, but I'm pretty sure these are actually the same. But I have multiple of both of these, so you know, it just tells you I really like them. And then I have the 8 medium point shader. So the differences, I'll hold these two up, you can see the difference. This guy here, more pointy and skinnier, and this guy here a bit more shorter. And the way that the bristles are cut, they are cut quite rounded. So you've got shorter bristles on the edges over here, and then longer bristles in the center. And because it's a bit chunkier, they sort of splay out a bit more rather than staying, you know, quite pointed and structured together. Does that make sense? Or a pointy structure. I really like all of these brushes. Again, you know, you don't need to buy Hakuhodo or Rae Morris to get these cuts. You can get them elsewhere, and that is where we come in with the more affordable brushes. So I have a range here. Oh look, I've even got a Rephr brush in here, the little pencil brush. I really like Reph's brushes. They do have some good small brushes, which is fantastic, and they seem to be expanding their line, you know, all the time, which is fantastic. Difference here, so the Rae Morris is the pointy one, the Rephr is the more sort of domed one, so you can see the difference. I think they both have a place in my routine. I would use them interchangeably. The Rae Morris, depending on what you're doing with it and what product you're using with it, the point can play a little bit of a role in how product applies and how you can be a bit more precise with it. The Rephr is really good for buffing out, whereas I feel like the Rae Morris is really good for precision application and blending. But that's enough about expensive brushes. Let's get on to oh my god, see, wait, before I move on from Rephr, there is another that's a small blending brush from Rephr, for comparison to the Hakuhodo J146. They are very, very, very similar. Even I can't tell which is which. This one's the Hakuhodo one. That's crazy. So yeah, Rephr has small eye brushes as well. Okay, let's get into it. Don't shoot the messenger. I've got Morphe brushes here. Don't be mad at me. If you don't like Morphe, that's absolutely fine. This is just to point out that you really can find brush cuts like this everywhere. Just head out and look for them. So I have the M506 here, which is like a small fluffy brush. If I was to compare it, I would say it is comparable to the Hakuhodo J5529. The pencil brush from Morphe is the E36. And again, it is quite comparable to the Rae Morris in size. And then I have this guy, which I really enjoy. This is the M213, and you can see it's an itty bitty tiny little eyeshadow packing brush. And this is fairly comparable to the Hakuhodo J144H. It's actually even smaller, so you know, if you're looking for even more little, some of the affordable brands have them. You just have to get out there and have a little look around. Another one that's comparable to the two that I just showed you is this one from Zoeva. It's the 237 Detail Shader Brush. So again, that's just a small eyeshadow, like, detail shader brush. And last, but certainly not least, I think these are probably some of the most interesting to talk about actually. They are blending brushes that are a bit more on the affordable side. So these are smaller blending brushes. If we compare them to a couple that I've shown you earlier, these guys on the end here are the Hakuhodo brushes. You can get an idea that, you know, they're smaller. They're little ones. So, okay, maybe this isn't a more affordable brand, but and maybe not the Sigma, but look, it's just to give you brand ideas basically. This one is from Smith brushes. It's a 247. Again, that one's a little bit like an eyeshadow packing slash blending brush, which, look, I really like that type of brush. The Zoeva 231 Luxe Petite Crease brush. So you can see there, that is just a standard small blending brush. We have the Sigma Detail Blending. This is the E27. And again, this falls into that category of it could be an eyeshadow brush, it could be a blending brush. Because it's flat on one angle and then wider on another, but it like flares out at the tip and the hairs are quite long. So when you put pressure on it and you're using it to like buff out an eyeshadow, it works really well. I quite like that one, and you know, Sigma, they're synthetic brushes, so you don't have to worry about cruelty issues. Then we have the Nabla Pointed Crease. This is another fantastic little baby blending brush. Ela Cosmetics with the E12. I really like that one as well. And the last one is from Colourpop. This is the E9 brush. So again, that is a little fluffy blending brush, just on a smaller scale. Now there is something I want to point out about your smaller blending brushes that are specifically made of a synthetic hair. These are going to behave quite differently to a standard size blending brush, whether it be synthetic or natural hair, or a smaller size blending brush that's made of natural hair. And I'm gonna have to show you what I mean. Let's talk about the big blending brushes first compared to the little blending brushes. The differences here are shorter hairs, more compact, and that results in less movement at the tip of the hair. So if you take a synthetic brush and you bounce it on the skin, you're gonna see that the hairs move more than it sort of pokes my skin, like the hairs bend. Same with a natural hair brush. You just get a lot more like hair bending than you do poking. Now, because these guys are shorter, more densely packed, they're a lot less likely to bend before they put pressure. So you're going to get a lot more of like, you know, poking into the skin. The hairs still bend, and I don't say poking in a way where it's like, oh, I'm being stabbed by thousands of little hairs in my eyes. That's not, sometimes that is the case, but that's not what I'm talking about. These are simply not going to have the flexibility and the movement of a natural hair or a large synthetic brush. Now, when we look at smaller natural hair brushes, so these would be, you know, close to comparable, these do have the bend and the movement, and it's just because this is plastic and this is real hair. So that's something to really keep in mind when you are buying these smaller eyeshadow blending brushes. Now, I would never take one of these little brushes and do my crease with this, because it's too much. I definitely would need something that can, you know, soften things up a bit, apply a nice light layer of eyeshadow, and I just build it up to my desired effect. Whereas this is going to apply product fairly heavily, and it's going to be a bit difficult to blend out, basically, without a lot of sort of tugging and pulling and back and forth. What I particularly like these little brushes for is picking up an eyeshadow, typically a darker eyeshadow, and I like to put it in my outer corner, and then I like to blend it with that same brush up into my crease, sort of drag it through my crease a little bit towards the middle of my eye. I like to smoke it out over the top of my eyelid and a little bit out to the side. That's what these are really good for. They still offer you blending, but precision. Now, if I'm using multiple matte shades in a look, that's when I'm going to go for something a bit smaller like this, because it gives me that precision and the control. The only other advice that I would give when it comes to buying eyeshadow brushes, and this doesn't just go for small eyeshadow brushes, this is all eyeshadow brushes. If you can't shop for them in person, which I know is very, very difficult these days, if you have to buy them online and the retailer is listing the brush's dimensions, use that to your advantage. So, you know, you might be looking at this brush on a website and they'll have the list of, you know, different measurements. So you might have like the full length, the handle length, the ferrule length, the hair length, the hair width, the type of cut, whether it's tapered or round or flat or whatever, angled. Take those measurements, get a little measuring tape or a ruler, grab a bunch of other eyeshadow brushes that you have that might be sort of similar, and start comparing the measurements. If it says that the, you know, the width of the hair is, I don't know, 6 millimeters, grab a measuring tape and compare it to another brush to see how big that is actually going to be. And the reason why I like to compare it to another brush is because it's kind of a little bit easier to imagine like how the hairs might splay, or, you know, how they might look compared to a similar brush. Whereas if you just look at the measurements, there's a lot more to imagine there. Some people might simply be better at that than I am, but I like to compare my measurements to other brushes that I do own. I think doing that gives you a little bit more of an idea of what you're going to get, and might help to give you a little bit more confidence. Might also make you realize, hang on, wait, that brush is, you know, way too small for what I want, or it is a lot bigger than I was expecting. And that's what I do. You know, if I'm buying brushes from like Beautylish or Hakuhodo, anything like that, if they've got measurements, I use those measurements to my advantage, and I just take my time with it, and I make notes, and I pick out my list of things to buy, I chuck them in the cart, and often I already know exactly what I'm going to receive before it's even in my hands. Like, I already have a really, really good idea. Unless it's like a situation like this, where I'm buying one of these like different cuts, this sort of mock jewel fiber angled cut, fluffy, I don't even know. What is it? It's weird, but it's amazing. I love it. So yeah, I think it's, it can be really daunting. I know. I get, on my videos about brushes, I get a lot of comments where people are just like, I don't even know, I don't know where to start. And I get it, because I was like that at one stage as well. But basically, I just, you know, make small orders here and there, and eventually those small orders, like, they turn into big orders. But over time, I just got a lot more confident with buying brushes online. It is so much easier if you can buy in store. There's no doubting that. You can, you know, just go in and look at the brush. Is that small enough? Yes, it is. No, it's not. Easy done. But I do hope that that is helpful for you guys. If you have small brushes that are your faves at home, whether you have small eyes, normal size eyes, or large eyes, and you just still have small brushes, let us know what your favorites are down in the comments section. I have been feeling the brush shopping bug recently, but I keep telling myself I'm not allowed to do it until I go through the rest of my brushes and do a little bit of a curation of my stash, whittle it down a little bit. So I'm gonna have to get on top of that before I'm allowed to buy any more brushes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.